Hey guys, so John Moreland might have been my favorite artist that I got to see at Stagecoach in 2017. Now, that is probably a weird statement to say. Stagecoach is basically like the country version of Coachella that happens the weekend after Coachella in the same place. And I feel like people normally go to Stagecoach to like party and see Kenny Chesney, which I got to do and it was awesome. But something about seeing John Moreland in this like small, intimate space, it was like pretty early in the day and there weren't that many people yet, and just hearing his voice was such an incredible experience. And I've been a John Moreland fan for pretty much my entire adult life, which feels like a long time. Maybe it actually isn't that long, but I've been in love with all four of his albums leading up to this one, so I was really excited for it. This is his fifth album, so it is appropriately named LP5, which either he was feeling really lazy or really edgy, depending on how you think about it. John Moreland is from Tulsa, Oklahoma, and I just feel like there's so many great songwriters that come out of Oklahoma. I've recently been obsessed with John Fulbright, and then of course there's Evan Felker. But man, I've always loved the sound of his voice. It's so deep and so rich, and also his lyrics. They're just so full of beautiful poetry and such deep emotions, and I never really truly know what his songs are about, but that's kind of like the magic of it. What I've always loved about John Moreland's sound in the past has been his like acoustic folk sounding songs. The very first song I heard by him that is still one of my favorite songs to this day is Hang Me in the Tulsa County Stars. So it's got very simple acoustic instrumentation, which really highlights the depth and richness of his voice. At the same time, he's also had some more upbeat rock sounding songs, which are super fun. But this album moves his music in a whole new direction. And you've got all these like really interesting electronic synthy sounds. Normally I'm not really into that kind of sound, but for some reason I love the way this album particularly sounds a lot. The sound of this album is really atmospheric and vibey and ethereal. You've got these really interesting percussive textures, and I feel like when I'm listening to it that I'm either underwater or in outer space or walking through a forest. At the same time, you've still got elements of John Moreland that are familiar, that you recognize from his past albums. You still have his voice and his lyrics, and there's also some songs on here that are very reminiscent of his older albums, such as East October, I'm Learning How to Tell Myself the Truth, and In Times Between, which should satisfy people who are like, I miss the old John Moreland. I feel like I'm not smart enough to like listen to every single lyric and know what they mean, but what I love about John Moreland's lyrics is that he puts together words and phrases in brand new ways that I've never seen before, and I just read those lines and I'm like, what does that mean? I don't know how he comes up with his lyrics. I don't know if he just puts words together. I don't know what that really means, but it sounds cool and I'm gonna sing it, or if every single line like actually has an exact meaning. But some of the overarching themes that I see are self-acceptance and the search for truth. You feel like he's singing from a place of wisdom and reflection upon life, and you've got so many interesting images throughout. Let's just dive into each song and I'll show you what I mean. Oh my gosh, there are so many cool lines in this song. Like immediately the first line you got, all the gods are watching wars on television, placing their bets and telling jokes about religion. And my favorite line of all is, Is the truth a work of fiction? Better ask the bloodstained sky. I feel like this song perfectly exemplifies the sound of this album. You got his vocals soaring through this very atmospheric, echoey soundscape. I think it's just really smooth and pleasant to listen to. I like this song a lot. I like how it takes a traditional blues rhythm and chord progression and then puts it in a minor key, which I think has the effect of making it sound super dark and creepy. This song has a really fun electric bounce, and you've got that distortion in his voice, and I think when you have the distorted voices layered on top of each other, it sounds even creepier. There's all these interesting electronic sound effects and distorted instruments. The whole song sounds like this warning message to the listener with all these lines that are like phrases of advice. Save it for the savior in the shadow of your mind, for instance, or shame is a cancer, go easy on your heart. It just has a really cool, dark vibe to it. So this was the first song that I heard on this album and loved immediately. I think this song is a really good hybrid between the folk country sound of his older songs with the echoey resonance of this new album. I just love the line, North Carolina in East October. East October is just an interesting phrase that I've never heard before. I think the most powerful part of this song is where he repeatedly poses the rhetorical question in the chorus to the universe, how am I ever gonna get by myself? You get these interesting thunderstorm-like sound effects in the background, and I think this song evokes a strong sense of nostalgia and longing. Here's another song that is more reminiscent of John Moreland's older songs. What really stands out to me about this song is the piano in the background. It's so delicate and beautiful. I believe it's a song about self-growth and self-acceptance, and I love how he harmonizes with himself in the chorus, which almost strengthens that sense of self. I love the line, you left your oldest costumes in the other room. I don't know what it means, but it's cool. And then you have the line, Mama's little martyr with the Bible belt noose. And keep that in mind because Mama's little martyr comes back later. I think the ultimate theme of the song, which is the conclusion he comes to in the chorus, is I'm gonna tell myself the truth. The truth is that I just want to move you. So now we have the first of our two very beautiful instrumentals. I believe it's just two guitars and it's called 2 stars, so each guitar is a star. It's very calm and reflective and reminds me of water, and I also get this image of like 2 snowflakes gently drifting and intertwining with each other. Here is another song that creates a very beautiful atmospheric sonic landscape. I love the piano and the interesting syncopated percussive elements throughout. I almost feel like I'm walking through a magical forest with all these different sounds swirling around me. At some point, I swear there's a sound effect that sounds like flapping bird wings. Something interesting I noticed is that in verse 2 he says, sing hallelujah, I was lost but now I'm found. So you have that traditional religious phrase, but then in the next verse he says, sing hallelujah, I was found but now I'm lost. So it's almost this interesting twist. So this song definitely sounds like it could belong on one of his older records because it's very acoustic with just 2 guitars. This song feels raw, lonely, and contemplative, and I think the most beautiful line is, you're swimming in the seas that are streaming from my eyes. There's also this line that really caught my attention. It's "We're curing all the cancers on your stolen hummingbird." I wish I could tell you what that meant, but I just think it's a really cool combination of words that you don't normally see together. There's a really powerful moment at the end where he says, "We'd drink out in the parking lot and then you'd disappear," which is then followed by a moment of silence before he starts singing again. So you really feel the disappearance of whether this is a friend or a lover. I think it's funny how the first 5 seconds make it sound like it's gonna be like a hip-hop rap song, but then it's not. This is a beautiful love song that combines an acoustic guitar with more electric synthy sounds, which I think once again perfectly exemplifies the sound of this album. Once again, this is another song that takes you into this ethereal, echoey soundscape. As I'm listening to it, I feel like I'm taken into this other world, whether it's underwater or in outer space. But you're still grounded by his voice and his beautiful lyrics. This is our second instrumental, which I find more interesting than the first one because you got all these different unique sounds. It's another vibey percussive soundscape, and the instrument that stands out to me the most is the piano. To me, this song evokes images of nature. I can hear chirping birds and I can visualize waterfalls, and it's just really beautiful. Finally, you got my favorite song of all. I just think this song sounds so pretty, and instrumentally I love the bass that creates that steady rhythm in the background, and then you got the harmonica that comes in, and it's just so melodic and expressive, and to me conveys so much emotion. That first line is "Mama's little martyr with her face drawn on. What are you gonna do, 22 with your youth all gone?" So I told you Mama's little martyr would be back. It's a song about the universal feeling of wanting to be understood. And in the chorus, he's desperately pleading to the world, "Let me be understood, let us be understood." And there's just so many beautiful lines throughout. There's "You can't reach salvation from your rocking chair," "The monumental yonder." Like, wow. This song is my favorite on the album, and it just feels very spiritual. So overall, I was pleasantly surprised by how much I love this album. I normally don't gravitate towards overly produced electronic synthy sounds. I would say lately, over the past year, I've definitely more gravitated towards more authentic sounding music that is less produced, like bluegrass and red dirt country. But this album is really cool, and I like how John Moreland has maintained his authentic voice and lyrical songwriting, but also infused these brand new electronic elements, and has managed to expand the boundaries of what he is known for. And I think it's so cool that he's been able to innovate and expand in new directions. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Let me know what you thought of this album, and I will see you in the next video.